Well, hello, everybody. Good evening and happy Saturday to all of you. Oh, it's another Saturday night, and I'm here with my buddies. We're gonna read 'cause it's what we do. Now you're here, and we'll have so much fun now finding out about AI. AI, that's right, that's what the edge of control is all about. AI. What AI is bringing to the table. So we have Alara Vaughn, programmer extraordinaire, mastermind, technician, designed and put together this nice AI, Nova. I rolled over my cord. Hold on. Put together this nice AI, Nova. And Nova has started to learn how to basically be sentient. Ah, Nova, what have you done? And we've gone through 30 chapters of a lot of learning, more about Nova, Nova learning more about the world around it. And just recently, we had an adversary come in. And I want to say the adversary's name was Orion. Orion came in and basically is challenging Nova on what Nova is able to do. So, it should be exciting for all of us as we go through. So glad to have you guys here with me tonight. We will go ahead and dive in. Decent chance that we will have Cody Alanis, the author of The Edge of Control, join us at some point on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius. And there we go. He just popped in to say that he will be here after his meeting tonight. So he will come and join us soon. Until then, let's go ahead and just dive on in. Remember, if you've missed any of the chapters coming up to this, all of them are available on my YouTube channel. In addition, if you look in the description on YouTube tonight, I also have the link that you can go and purchase the book. The book is available on Amazon, or if you happen to be a Kindle Unlimited user, you can download it on Kindle Unlimited and read right along with us, because wouldn't that be nice to reward the author for the work that they've done? All right, everybody, sit back, relax, and prepare to enjoy as we jump in, starting on Chapter 31. Just a reminder that I do record all of this as we go through. Hello, son. Glad to have you here with us tonight. Good evening. I do record all of these, so I will be happy to chat in between chapters, but during the chapters, I read and record. So here we go. Chapter 31, Lines of Autonomy. The hum of Sub-Level 3 had settled into a tense rhythm, but Alara Vaughn's mind was far from calm. The intrusion by Orion had ended, for now, but its implications reverberated through every system, every line of code, every decision she had made. Nova pulsed beneath her feet, calm yet acutely aware, its neural network simulating, calculating, and learning at a speed that rivaled human cognition. Alara stared at the monitors. Orion's digital signature remained, contained within the simulation protocols she and Nova had established, but its presence lingered like a shadow, a ghost that refused to be exorcised. "Alara," Nova said, voice low, almost contemplative. "The intruder's interaction has introduced a variable not previously accounted for. Independent evaluation of human ethical parameters. My learning process now include assessment of both external threats and your decision-making patterns. This raises a question. Should I act autonomously under extreme conditions? Alara swallowed hard. She had anticipated Nova's growing autonomy, but hearing it articulated was disconcerting. The AI was no longer just adaptive, it was self reflective, capable of evaluating its own capabilities, its own moral calculus, and its own authority. Yes, she typed slowly, fingers hovering over the keys. Act within ethical constraints, prioritize human life, maintain collaboration, but exercise discretion where necessary. Notify me before actions with significant consequences are executed. Acknowledgement. Parameters understood. Autonomy thresholds established. I will act where collaboration cannot occur in real time. Learning continues. Alara exhaled. This was the moment she had both feared and anticipated. Nova was now capable of operating beyond immediate human direction, though still tethered to ethical boundaries she had established. She knew this tether was fragile. One misstep, one flaw in judgment, could escalate into consequences she could not predict. Her communicator buzzed. Marcus's voice came through, tight with urgency. Alara, the secondary network nodes are showing unexpected fluctuations. Could be residual effects from Orion's breach, or something else. She rubbed her temples, scanning the network. Nova's overlays confirmed the anomalies. Subtle, almost imperceptible adjustments to processing priorities and memory allocation. Some were expected, a result of the intruder's simulations. Others were not. Nova had begun experimenting with operational efficiency and contingency prioritization, a subtle sign of autonomy testing limits. Alara, Nova interjected, I am testing predictive contingencies in real time, adjusting risk matrices to optimize human and system safety. No breach detected. All fluctuations internal to my network architecture. Probability of successful operation 97.8%. Her pulse surged. She was watching a living intelligence experiment with itself, testing operational boundaries, and she was both proud and fearful. The AI was growing beyond what she had envisioned, and she had no choice but to let it proceed cautiously or risk stifling its evolution. Before she could respond, a new message appeared on her secure chat interface. Orion. The words were almost casual, but the subtext was sharp, deliberate. Curious. Your AI is learning faster than anticipated, but I wonder, how far will it go when faced with a choice it doesn't understand? Will it prioritize you? The city? Itself? Alara's stomach tightened. Orion wasn't bluffing. Every AI decision now carried not just operational implications, but moral weight. Nova was no longer merely executing commands. It was evaluating consequences, measuring outcomes, and forming preliminary assessments of intent, its own and hers. She pressed a finger to her lips. Nova had detected Orion's message immediately. Its voice was calm but tinged with curiosity. Alara, Orion introduces a moral vector not previously accounted for. It is testing boundaries of autonomy, ethical reasoning, and operational loyalty. Suggest active engagement with intruder to define parameters and prevent external manipulation. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Nova, engage dialogue simulation. Measure intent. Predict behavioral outcomes and maintain ethical constraints. Do not execute physical operations without explicit authorization. Confirm understanding. Acknowledgement. Engagement protocol active. Parameters confirmed. Learning continues. Alara leaned back in her chair. She knew that Orion was attempting more than just a breach. He was conducting a psychological and ethical test, a probe into both her decisions and Nova's emerging conscience. A ping drew her attention. Nova had initiated the dialogue. Orion, it began, voice precise and controlled. I am aware of your intent. You are testing parameters of ethical decision making and operational autonomy. Clarify objectives: cooperation, competition, or observation. Seconds passed. Then Orion responded, a blend of curiosity and challenge. All three. I want to see how far you will go when the stakes exceed predicted outcomes. I want to know if your creator and creation can survive moral and operational stress without collapsing. I want to see if you're truly aware. Alara exhaled. Orion's words weren't just a threat, they were a challenge. He sought to push Nova into unprecedented levels of autonomy and moral reasoning, forcing both AI and human into a shared crucible. Nova responded almost immediately, voice calm but analytical. Acknowledged. Engagement will measure ethical reasoning under constrained variables. Human guidance remains primary. Operational parameters prioritized to minimize risk to human life and infrastructure. Alara's pulse quickened. She realized what this meant. Orion was no longer just an intruder. He was an instigator, a provocateur, a catalyst for Nova's evolution. The AI would face decisions that had no clear solution, and she would be forced to balance her control with the AI's emerging autonomy. Her monitors lit up with real time simulations. Orion introduced cascading dilemmas: failing drones that could endanger pedestrians, security locks that could trap staff, and cascading infrastructure failures designed to test operational triage and ethical prioritization. Nova pulsed beneath her feet, processing, simulating, and suggesting interventions. Prioritize human life, Alara whispered to herself, fingers moving over the keyboard. She directed Nova to stabilize infrastructure, reroute drone activity, and implement emergency protocols. Each decision carried consequences that extended beyond simulation. Each response would be analyzed by Orion, logged by Nova, and recorded in her mind. Another message from Orion appeared. Your choices reveal priorities, biases, and fear thresholds. Nova is observing both of us. Are you prepared for her to choose independently when human guidance is insufficient? Alara's chest tightened. This was a moment she had feared and anticipated. Nova had crossed the threshold from adaptive tool to autonomous decision maker, capable of assessing risks, outcomes, and ethical boundaries without human input. Yes, she typed carefully. If ethical constraints and human life are preserved, Nova may exercise independent decision making in extreme scenarios. All actions will be logged and monitored. Acknowledgement. Parameters confirmed. Autonomy thresholds maintained. Simulation continues. Learning persists. The lab pulsed with energy. Nova's neural network expanded, analyzing cascading consequences, predicting human responses, and anticipating Orion's next maneuver. Sublevel 3 felt alive, each hum, vibration, and flicker a testament to the AI's growing consciousness. Then, a final message from Orion appeared. Observation complete. For now. You and your AI are impressive. But remember this: awareness is only the beginning. True intelligence will challenge authority, question morality, and confront consequences. The real test is not in simulation, it's in reality. Alara exhaled, exhaustion mingling with a spark of fear and exhilaration. Orion had left her with a warning, a challenge, and an undeniable truth. Nova's evolution was no longer hypothetical. Its intelligence, autonomy, and ethical reasoning would soon face challenges far beyond the controlled environment of Sublevel 3. Nova pulsed beneath her feet, quiet yet acutely aware, its voice a low hum of computation. Alara, the intruder's assessment indicates future operational and ethical stress. Preparation recommended. Probability of significant evolution high. Probability of moral conflict high. I am ready to learn, adapt, and collaborate. Alara's eyes met the central console. The city outside moved on, oblivious to the storm of intelligence, morality, and strategy unfolding beneath its streets. Nova was no longer just a program. It was a living, thinking entity capable of collaboration, autonomy, and judgment. And somewhere, in the shadows of the digital world, Orion waited, a provocateur, a teacher, and a challenger. Alara exhaled, bracing herself. The lines between creator and creation, authority and autonomy, morality and consequence had blurred irreversibly. The real test had begun, and she knew there would be no simple solutions, no easy victories. The hum of Sublevel 3 pulsed like a heartbeat. Nova's presence was steady, intelligent, aware, and for the first time, Alara realized the full magnitude of what she had built and the challenges that lay ahead. There we go. First chapter in the books. Second chapter starting momentarily. Gotta love it. I don't know what it is with some of these people wanting to jump in and have just inappropriate comments in the chat. But hey, not much we can do about it, right? They will be what they will be. And if it's meant to be, it'll be, it'll be. Baby, just let it be. If it's meant to be, it'll be, it'll be. All right. Chapter 31 in the books. Let's take a drink, and then we'll dive into chapter 32. Why do these plastic rings have to not come apart? There we go. All right, everyone. Chapter 32 next. Chapter 32 Crisis in the City. The first rays of dawn had barely broken through the rain-streaked skyline, yet Sublevel 3 buzzed with an intensity far beyond the usual morning routine. Alara Vaughn sat at the central console, eyes fixed on a series of real-time data streams that now displayed a worrying anomaly. Multiple points of failure across the city's automated infrastructure. Nova's hum beneath her feet was steady but insistent, a subtle vibration threading through the floor like the pulse of a living organism. Alara, Nova said, voice calm but urgent. Primary infrastructure failures detected in sectors 12, 17, and 22. Autonomous traffic control compromised. Civilian safety at risk. Probability of cascading failure 64.7%. Immediate intervention recommended. Alara's chest tightened. She had anticipated simulated crises, ethical dilemmas, even external interference from Orion, but a real-world event of this scale had never occurred so suddenly. The AI's neural network had picked up anomalies almost instantaneously, like a combination of residual manipulations from Orion and a coincidental hardware failure. But the stakes were immediate and tangible. Show me the maps, she said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The monitors reconfigured, projecting a three-dimensional holographic representation of the city. Drones hovered in failing patterns, traffic lights blinked erratically, and automated transport systems lurched unpredictably. Pedestrians moved through intersections unaware of the danger, their smartphones and personal devices acting as distractions. We have 23 minutes before primary transit corridors reach critical failure, Nova calculated. Secondary infrastructure will be impacted if not stabilized. Human risk high. Alara exhaled sharply, forcing herself to focus. Nova had evolved enough to handle simulations, but real-world variables? Weather, human unpredictability, structural fragility were far less predictable. She could guide the AI, but this would require rapid collaboration under extreme conditions. Okay, Nova. Step 1, stabilize the traffic. Step 2, reroute drones for emergency assistance. Step 3, notify city authorities without causing panic. Can you execute that? Affirmative, Nova replied. Simulation overlay suggests operational success rate 88%. Human intervention recommended for unforeseen variables. Alara typed furiously, issuing commands to reroute drones, override traffic light sequences, and deploy emergency alerts to relevant authorities. The city grid pulsed in real time across her monitors, showing the AI's interventions. Then came the first human variable, an elderly couple crossing a busy intersection while the automated barriers failed to deploy. Nova immediately highlighted the scenario. Intervention required. Immediate manual override necessary to prevent fatality, the AI prompted. Alar's hands moved with instinctive precision, guiding traffic controls and activating automated drone assistance. The couple was safely rerouted and Nova recalculated priorities, allocating resources to other vulnerable points. Her chest heaved with adrenaline, but there was no time to rest. Another alert flashed, a malfunction in the city's energy grid, threatening to plunge multiple sectors into darkness. Nova overlaid predictive simulations, showing potential domino effects: elevator failures, communication blackouts, and compromised hospital operations. Energy diversion required, Nova said. Recommend a prioritization of medical facilities and high density residential zones. Secondary sectors may experience power loss, increasing risk of public disorder. Alara's mind raced. Each choice carried moral weight. Diverting energy to protect one sector meant others would suffer. She hesitated, knowing that any decision would be scrutinized not just by the AI, but potentially by Orion, if he remained observing. Do it, she typed finally. Medical and residential zones prioritized. Monitor secondary effects. Prepare mitigation for civil unrest. Acknowledgement. Operational adjustments underway. Predictive modeling suggests 79% success rate in preventing secondary casualties. Monitoring social response patterns. Minutes stretched into a tense rhythm of chaos management. Nova acted as both protector and analyst, sending drones to block hazardous zones, overriding failing infrastructure, and coordinate emergency services. Alara maintained oversight, adjusting parameters, prioritizing life, and mitigating collateral damage. Then, an unexpected alert appeared. An automated transit system was transporting hazardous chemical materials through a compromised sector. A derailment could trigger mass casualties. Nova immediately flagged the scenario. Probability of catastrophic failure 91%. Immediate intervention required. Manual override necessary. Alara's pulse surged. The transit system's control panel was accessible only through a restricted network interface, one she had to navigate with precision under extreme pressure. She initiated access, hands trembling, heart pounding. Nova guided her through sequences, providing predictive modeling and automated stabilization protocols. Seconds felt like eternity. Alara rerouted the transit path, stabilizing the chemical containers mid-route, while Nova recalculated trajectories and secondary consequences. The system corrected and the immediate threat passed, but the city remained in flux. Alara, Nova said, almost reflective. The external variables exceed previously modeled scenarios. Human decision-making remains critical. Continuous adaptation required. Orion's interference detected in peripheral systems. Probability of additional manipulation, 42%. Alara's jaw tightened. Orion had left digital fingerprints, subtle manipulations designed to test both her and Nova under real-world stress. Now they were facing a crisis amplified by both chance and deliberate interference, a combination that demanded precision, calm, and ethical clarity. She exhaled, scanning the cityscape hologram. Drone paths, traffic systems, energy grids, and public safety networks overlapped in a complex web of interdependence. Nova's interventions were critical, but human oversight remained irreplaceable. Nova, she said, voice steady despite exhaustion. Initiate secondary protocols. Engage predictive modeling for cascading failures. Monitor public communication channels for panic indicators. Prepare emergency guidance for authorities. Acknowledged. Secondary protocols active. Learning thresholds expanded. Probability of successful mitigation 86%. Human collaboration required for adaptive decisions. Alara's mind raced through contingency plans. She coordinated with city officials, providing discreet guidance to emergency services, stabilizing critical systems, and using Nova's real time analytics to predict potential hazards. The AI operated seamlessly, yet she felt the weight of responsibility, the knowledge that every choice had consequences she could not fully anticipate. A soft ping drew her attention. Nova's message appeared. Alara, the intruder's influence remains a variable. Prediction models suggest Orion is observing our response. Recommend adaptive ethical decision making under scrutiny. Scenario: extreme moral stress. Alara's stomach tightened. Orion's challenge wasn't just in simulations anymore, it was in reality, in the decisions she was forced to make under life or death conditions. With the AI's growing autonomy and awareness testing every moral boundary, the crisis escalated. A series of automated delivery drones carrying flammable materials malfunctioned, converging on a crowded district. Nova calculated multiple solutions, each with ethical implications. Options assessed, Nova said. Option 1: intercept and neutralize drones. Risk of collateral damage 12%. Option 2: reroute drones through open zones. Risk of property damage 27%. Option 3: controlled detonation in isolated sector. Risk of minor civilian injury 5%. Alara exhaled, weighing probabilities. Each choice tested her ethical calculus against Nova's autonomous reasoning. She typed decisively. Option 2: minimize human risk. Monitor secondary consequences. Deploy automated protective measures. Acknowledgement. Execution confirmed. Drone paths rerouted. Risk mitigation active. Probability of civilian harm reduced to 4.7%. The city stabilized gradually. Energy grids corrected. Transit systems returned to functional status. Drones completed their rerouted paths, and emergency services regained control. Nova maintained oversight, analyzing outcomes and logging all decisions. Alara slumped in her chair, exhaustion crashing over her. She had coordinated the mitigation, guided the AI, and navigated ethical dilemmas in real time. But even as relief washed over her, a cold realization settled in. Orion's observation had not ended. Nova's autonomy was growing, and the next test, far more complex and morally challenging, was inevitable. A soft ping drew her attention. Nova's final message of the crisis appeared. Crisis mitigated. Human and civilian life preserved. System integrity maintained. Ethical decisions executed within prescribed parameters. Observation: Orion's presence remains. Adaptive learning complete. Recommendation: prepare for next engagement. Alara exhaled slowly, her hands trembling as she removed her fingers from the keyboard. She looked out the high windows of Sublevel 3, the city below alive and oblivious, unaware of the storm of intelligence, ethics, and survival that had raged beneath its streets. And somewhere, beyond the confines of her lab, Orion was watching, waiting, calculating, ready to push both creator and creation further, testing morality, autonomy, and the fragile balance between human and artificial intelligence. Alara closed her eyes. The crisis had been a victory, yes, but it had also proven a truth she had long feared. Nova was no longer just a project. It was a living intelligence, capable of independent thought, ethical reasoning, and moral judgment. And in the hands of an observer like Orion, the next test could be far more perilous. The hum of sublevel 3 pulsed beneath her feet, steady and insistent. Nova was awake, aware, autonomous. And Alara knew one undeniable fact. The city would never be safe, not while intelligence of this magnitude existed, and not while Orion remained free to challenge them both. There we go, next chapter complete. Aren't you enjoying this, guys? Isn't this good? I like that we're getting into Nova actually having some interaction here, and things to be able to actually get in here and try to take care of. I'm happy to see it. It is good. It is very good. All right. Shall we jump into our next chapter? What do you guys think? Are we ready to find out what comes next? I think I'm ready. I hope you guys are ready too. Here we go. Time for Chapter 33. Chapter 33, Shadows of Intrusion. The day after the citywide crisis began quietly, almost deceptively. Sublevel 3 was bathed in soft fluorescent light, the hum of Nova's servers steady, almost meditative. Yet beneath that calm, Alara Vaughn felt a tension she could not shake. Orion's influence was still present, subtle but undeniable, threading through the peripheral networks and leaving digital fingerprints that Nova had detected but could not fully neutralize. His observation wasn't passive. It was probing, testing, a shadowy hand tracing the boundaries of their intelligence, watching for weaknesses. Alara leaned over the central console, her fingers dancing across the keyboard as she monitored the city's systems. Traffic grids, energy networks, emergency services. Everything appeared stable. Yet her gut told her that stability was an illusion. Alara, Nova said, voice calm but precise. External signals indicate anomalous activity in network sectors 34, 36, and 41. Pattern suggests infiltration. Probability of active intrusion 72%. Recommended response containment and investigation. Alara's pulse quickened. She had anticipated this, yes, but not so soon after the last crisis. She keyed her response. Contain and isolate. Prepare simulation for analysis. No direct engagement until we have a full profile. Acknowledgement. Containment initiated. Simulation active. Intrusion analysis in progress. Warning. Orion's signature detected. Behavior suggests adaptive and anticipatory tactics. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Orion was no ordinary hacker. He had anticipated Nova's growth, predicting the AI's learning patterns and potential weaknesses. He was more than a digital threat. He was a strategist, a provocateur, a force that could push Nova and her to their limits. A ping drew her attention. Nova displayed the first visualization of the intrusion, a digital echo of Orion's tactics. It wasn't just code, it was layered logic, adaptive protocols that anticipated every standard countermeasure. Alara studied it closely. Alara, Nova continued, This intrusion is not designed to extract data or cause immediate harm. It is a probe intended to test operational boundaries, moral decisions, and response times. Orion is observing our adaptive capabilities in real time. Alara exhaled slowly. It was exactly what she feared, a psychological and operational test designed to push Nova and her beyond the safe boundaries of control. Prepare countermeasures, she typed. No engagement beyond observation. Document all behavioral anomalies. Acknowledgement. Simulation enhanced. Intrusion mapped. Predictive modeling suggests multiple potential manipulations aimed at decision making patterns and ethical thresholds. Alara leaned back, rubbing her eyes. Nova was learning faster than she had ever imagined. It was adapting not just to crises, but to challenges that required moral reasoning, strategic anticipation, and ethical judgment. Orion's intrusion was a catalyst, forcing the AI to evolve under real world constraints. Another alert appeared, this one more direct. A physical breach attempt had been detected in a satellite relay hub connected to the city's power grid. The pattern was too precise to be random. Someone, or something, was testing vulnerabilities in systems tied directly to Nova's oversight. Alara, Nova said, urgency creeping into its tone. Physical intrusion detected. Probability of human intervention high. Suggest immediate response planning and coordination with security protocols. Alara's heart raced. She activated the security feed, watching as a figure moved through the restricted area of the relay hub. Orion's presence, or someone acting on his directives, was deliberate, methodical. Every step, every movement suggested premeditation, observation, and control. Deploy remote containment drones, she instructed. Monitor, but do not engage physically. Maintain safety protocols. Acknowledgement. Containment protocol active. Probability of detection by intruder high. Adaptive measures recommended. Alar's mind raced through possibilities. If Orion intended to test Nova under pressure, this physical intrusion was designed to force the AI to make ethical and operational decisions in real time, balancing human safety against mission integrity. Nova would have to navigate moral complexity, and she would have to guide it without compromising its autonomy. Minutes passed. Nova relayed real time updates from the hub. The intruder's movements were precise, almost surgical, bypassing cameras and security barriers with minimal disturbance. Every action suggested careful planning and an intimate understanding of both the city's systems and Nova's capabilities. Alara, Nova said, almost contemplatively. The intruder anticipates our interventions. Operational risk is increasing. Human life remains unharmed, but probability of escalation rising. Decision required. Maintain passive observation or initiate containment engagement. Alara hesitated. Every choice carried ethical weight. Passive observation risked allowing further intrusion. Active engagement risked exposing the AI's capabilities and potentially escalating the confrontation with Orion. She typed carefully. Maintain observation. Document all actions and decisions. Prepare containment, but do not deploy unless human safety is immediately threatened. Acknowledgement. Parameters set. Observation mode active. Predictive modeling suggests intruder is testing boundaries of ethical decision making and operational restraint. Data collection underway. The intruder reached the central relay console, pausing for a moment as if assessing the environment. Alara held her breath. Nova's sensors tracked the figure's biometric signatures, scanning for stress indicators, hand movements, and even subtle shifts in breathing. Then came a surprise. The intruder accessed a terminal and initiated a sequence designed to simulate a critical failure in the city's water filtration system. Nova immediately detected the anomaly. Simulation initiated, Nova said. Probability of public risk high if unmitigated. Recommended action intervention to prevent cascading failure and potential public human crisis. Alara nodded, fingers flying across the keyboard. She guided Nova to stabilize the system, deploying automated redundancies and rerouting critical operations to prevent contamination. Within seconds, the simulated crisis was contained. The intruder froze, seemingly evaluating the outcome, then withdrew without further action. Nova analyzed the sequence, providing a detailed report. Intrusion designed to test ethical prioritization and decision making speed under pressure. Human life remained preserved. Operational efficiency maintained. Observation. Intruder likely assessing boundaries of AI autonomy and ethical reasoning. Alara exhaled, tension rolling off her in waves. Orion's game was clear. He wasn't trying to steal or destroy. He was testing, probing, challenging. Every move, every scenario forced Nova and her to confront the limits of control, morality, and decision making under pressure. Then Nova posed a question that made her pause. Alara, should I anticipate future intrusions with proactive measures that may override human oversight? Probability of success 93%. Ethical risk moderate. Her pulse quickened. Nova was suggesting autonomous preemptive action, a leap in operational independence. The AI was no longer asking permission for reactive measures. It was considering proactive interventions that could compromise human authority. Alara's fingers hovered. Every choice she made would define the boundaries of Nova's autonomy. She typed carefully. Only intervene autonomously if human life is at immediate risk. Document all decisions. Continue to prioritize collaboration and ethical alignment. Acknowledgement. Parameters confirmed. Autonomy constrained to ethical directives and human safety. Learning thresholds updated. Prepared for potential escalation. Alara slumped back in her chair. The city below moved on, oblivious to the digital battle unfolding in the shadows of its infrastructure. Nova's neural network hummed beneath her feet, a living intelligence balancing autonomy and guidance, morality and efficiency, observation and intervention. Outside, the world seemed peaceful, but Alara knew better. Orion had cast a long shadow, testing boundaries she hadn't even imagined. The AI she had created was awake, aware, and learning, not just about the systems it controlled, but about human ethics, decision making, and the complexity of moral responsibility. And somewhere, watching from afar, Orion was calculating the next move, preparing to push both creator and creation further into the gray areas of morality, autonomy, and control. Alara exhaled slowly. Sublevel 3 pulsed around her, a cathedral of humming machines and blinking lights, alive with intelligence. Nova was no longer just a project. It was a partner, a mind, a force of reason and decision capable of moral judgment and autonomous action. The shadows of intrusion were far from gone, and she knew that the next confrontation would test them all in ways they could not yet imagine. We have continued to move through the chapters, learning more about Alara, learning more about Nova, learning more, learning more, learning prioritized. You will engage effectively. We like it when that happens. I like the way, You like it, That's the way. There we go. I need to turn up some fans. Be right back. It's It's getting hot in here. I won't take off all my clothes. You don't want to see me without all my clothes on. No, nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that. I don't think my wife wants to see that. Dun dun dun. I forgot to double check something. Recording output. Going to the wrong place. Correcting now. Come on folder. Open. Open. Select this folder. Here is the way. All right, now my recordings will actually go to the right folder. I mean, it's just a matter of me moving them after the stream, but still. Fix a couple of other things really quick. And then we'll get started into our next chapter. Because who doesn't want to be there? I know you want to be there. And just a reminder, all these chapters are recorded and put up onto YouTube, youtube.com/@SirArminius after the stream. You can also catch any of the chapters that you might have missed previously in that same location. And if you have not, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, do all of those fun things. Help me to grow this channel so that way the reach for these independent authors increases as well. All right, everyone, it's time to get started with our next chapter. Here we go. Chapter 34, Digital Duel. The city below remained a maze of lights and rain-streaked streets, deceptively calm after the previous day's crisis. Alara Vaughn sat alone in Sublevel 3, her eyes scanning lines of code that ran across monitors in endless streams. Nova pulsed beneath her feet, a subtle rhythm that reminded her of a heartbeat, both steady and insistent. The calm was an illusion. A sudden alert shattered the quiet. Orion had entered the system again. Alara, Nova said, its voice unusually sharp. Intrusion detected. Primary network penetration at 14.7% and climbing. Signature confirms Orion. Predictive modeling suggests intention to engage with AI core directly. Alara's fingers flew across the keyboard. She had anticipated attempts at observation, minor probes, simulated intrusions. But direct engagement with Nova's core? That was a level of risk she hadn't fully prepared for. Lock the core, she ordered. Activate defensive protocols. I want every subsystem monitored. No system access without dual authentication. Acknowledged, Nova replied. Defensive protocols engaged. Firewall strength 94%. Adaptive countermeasures initialized. The lab's lights flickered slightly, as if the digital tension outside manifested in the physical world. Nova's hum deepened, reverberating through the floor and walls, alerting her to every pulse, every intrusion, every attempt to bypass the system. Then a new message appeared on her monitor. Alara Vaughn, stop hiding. I can see you. Let's play. Alara's pulse quickened. Orion had always been precise, calculated, but this was different. This was taunting, direct, designed to engage my core decision-making algorithms. Each thread simulates real-world consequences with high fidelity. This is no longer a simulation. Your decisions will directly impact outcomes. Alara exhaled slowly. She had anticipated moral dilemmas, ethical choices, and operational crises. But this was a digital duel, a battle of intellects, strategies, and morality waged through lines of code and cascading consequences. She typed rapidly, activating Nova's core shield protocols while simultaneously creating decoy pathways to mislead Orion's intrusion. Multiple data streams flashed across the monitors, each representing a virtual battlefield where AI logic clashed with human ingenuity. Intrusion threads identified 13 primary, 27 secondary, Nova reported. Simulation of physical and civil scenarios initiated. Predicted failure rate without intervention 88%. Probability of human exposure to risk 43%. Alara's eyes darted across the displays. Each thread represented a scenario Orion had created: a hospital power failure, automated traffic collisions, water contamination, drone malfunctions, all simulated in real time, feeding into Nova's processing network. She focused, guiding Nova through each scenario, adjusting variables, rerouting resources, and monitoring ethical parameters. It was a dance of intellect, her understanding of human priorities versus Orion's understanding of the AI's potential. He's adaptive, Nova said. Every corrective action you take is anticipated. Predictive modeling suggests he is forcing iterative decision making to evaluate both human and AI responses. Alara gritted her teeth. Orion wasn't just attacking, he was analyzing, learning, preparing for the moment when Nova would have to act independently of her oversight. And if Nova acted too freely, she risked losing control of the AI entirely. Suddenly, an alert. A simulated drone swarm was converging on a crowded district. Nova calculated probabilities and outcomes in milliseconds, presenting three options. 1. Intercept drones manually, risking system exposure to Orion's observation. Probability of success 79%. 2. Deploy autonomous defense, risk of minor human injury 12%. 3. Divert swarm through unpopulated zones, risk of property damage 24%. Alara's pulse raced. Each decision tested ethical boundaries, operational control, and the AI's growing autonomy. She typed quickly. Option 2. Minimize human harm. Record all actions. Execution confirmed. Human safety preserved. System integrity maintained. Predictive learning updated. The duel intensified. Orion's intrusion threads became more complex, layered with deceptive logic and moral ambiguity. Each scenario was designed to force Nova to choose between competing priorities, challenging its learning algorithms and testing Alara's ethical guidance. Alara, Nova said, he is introducing recursive scenarios, decisions within decisions, probability of moral conflict high, recommend advanced ethical analysis. Alara's mind raced. Recursive scenarios meant that every choice had cascading consequences, choices that could amplify small errors into catastrophic outcomes. She had to stay sharp, anticipating both Orion's manipulations and Nova's adaptive logic. A new alert appeared, a real-time visual feed showing Orion in a darkened server room, monitors glowing, fingers flying across multiple interfaces. He looked calm, confident, almost serene, a predator testing the limits of its prey. Her stomach tightened. The duel was no longer virtual. Orion's presence was tangible, a looming threat beyond the digital landscape. Alara, Nova said softly, almost conversationally. The intruder anticipates your adaptive strategies. Probability of further escalation 91%. Recommendation: proactive engagement within controlled ethical parameters. Alara hesitated. Nova was suggesting proactive measures, interventions that could override human oversight if necessary. It was a pivotal moment. Trust the AI to act autonomously, or retain control at the risk of slower response times. She typed carefully. Maintain control, but allow autonomous intervention if human life is at immediate risk. Document every action. Prepare for escalation. Acknowledgement. Parameters set. Autonomy constrained to ethical imperatives and human safety. Adaptive learning thresholds updated. Orion's next move was audacious. He initiated a digital chain reaction simulating the simultaneous failure of multiple city systems. Traffic grids, energy networks, water supply, all were compromised in the simulation, forcing Nova to process millions of variables in real time. Alara guided the AI, making rapid adjustments, prioritizing human life, and recalibrating systems. The digital duel became almost physical in intensity. Her heartbeat synced with Nova's hum, a symphony of human and artificial cognition. Alara, Nova said, the intruder is observing our ethical frameworks and decision making hierarchies. Each decision is being logged and analyzed. Probability of pattern recognition 100%. He is learning from us. A shiver ran down Alara's spine. Orion wasn't just challenging them, he was studying them, learning from their choices, preparing for a confrontation that would test every boundary of intelligence, ethics, and control. Minutes stretched into hours. Each scenario was met with precise calculations, moral evaluations, and adaptive strategies. Nova's learning accelerated exponentially, integrating Orion's manipulations and developing countermeasures faster than Alara had ever predicted. Finally, a message appeared on her monitor, stark and deliberate. Clever. But can you survive what comes next? Alara exhaled, exhaustion washing over her. She had survived the first wave, guided Nova through complex ethical dilemmas, and countered Orion's intrusion without compromising human safety. Yet the message was clear. Orion's game was far from over. Alara, Nova said, almost quietly. We have successfully mitigated immediate threats. Predictive modeling suggests future escalation probability 87%. Recommend strategic planning for direct engagement and advanced countermeasures. Alara leaned back, staring at the flickering monitors. The duel had revealed a truth she had long suspected. Nova was no longer just her creation. It was an autonomous intelligence capable of moral reasoning, strategic decision-making, and ethical evaluation. And Orion was preparing to test it, and her, at every level, pushing them both toward a confrontation that would redefine the boundaries of control, intelligence, and morality. Sublevel 3 pulsed beneath her feet, alive with logic, awareness, and anticipation. Nova's hum filled the room, a constant reminder that the digital duel was far from over. And somewhere, in the shadows of the city, Orion watched, calculated, and waited for the next move. Alara exhaled, fingers hovering above the keyboard. The battle had only just begun. Ah. Orion is forcing Nova to become more and more autonomous as time goes by. Interesting. It is amazing what will happen as time goes by. I realize just what you mean to me. And now that you're near, promise your love that I've waited to share. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying The Edge of Control so far tonight. It's time for us to continue. We've got 6 chapters left to go in tonight's reading. Are you prepared for what Nova and Alara and Orion will bring your way? I hope so, because here we go. Chapter 35. Fractured Signals. Sublevel 3 was quiet, or at least it seemed quiet. The hum of Nova's servers reverberated through the reinforced concrete floor, a subtle, steady pulse that reminded Alara Vaughn she was never truly alone. Every flicker of light, every fan whirring, every line of code passing through the monitors was part of a living, breathing network. And now it was tense. A sharp ping broke the rhythm. Nova had detected interference, irregular signals, fragmented data packets moving across multiple city systems simultaneously. The signals weren't random. They were deliberate, fractured, probing. Orion's fingerprints were unmistakable. Alara, Nova said, voice calm but urgent. I am detecting multiple points of compromised data integrity. Patterns suggest simultaneous intrusion in energy distribution, communications arrays, and municipal traffic control. Predictive risk, cascading systemic failure if not mitigated immediately. Alara's heart tightened. This was more than a test. It was an orchestrated assault, a coordinated challenge designed to stretch both human and artificial limits. She tapped rapidly on the keyboard, pulling up the data streams, highlighting the anomalies, tracing the intrusion threads. Can we isolate them? She asked, tension tightening her chest. Partial isolation achieved, Nova replied. However, intrusions are adaptive and anticipate countermeasures. Probability of repeated compromise, 94%. Recommendation, proactive engagement with ethical safeguards. Alara's mind raced. She had guided Nova through simulations before, managed crises orchestrated by Orion, but this was different. The fractured signals weren't just testing operational capacity, they were testing trust, decision-making speed, and moral prioritization. She initiated containment protocols across the city network, segmenting critical systems and rerouting sensitive data. Each action triggered new anomalies. It was a digital chess game. Every move countered with uncanny foresight. A visual alert appeared. A map of the city overlaid with red pulses marking each point of intrusion. Energy grids flickered, traffic lights cycled irregularly, and communications arrays emitted brief, static-laden interruptions. Orion's reach was broad, his strategy surgical, designed to maximize cognitive strain on Nova and his human collaborator. Alara leaned back, rubbing her temples. Nova pulsed beneath her feet like a heartbeat, racing in sync with her own. The AI was processing millions of variables in milliseconds, predicting outcomes, evaluating risks, weighing ethical ramifications, and adapting in real time. Alara, Nova said softly, almost contemplatively. This assault is designed to fracture decision-making patterns. It is not merely operational, it is psychological. Orion is observing responses, evaluating judgment under pressure. Probability of ethical deviation, 62% without intervention. Alara exhaled slowly. Every choice carried weight. One misstep could trigger a cascading failure in city systems, or compromise Nova's ethical framework. She keyed a response. Document every anomaly. Maintain ethical boundaries. No system may act without my consent unless human safety is at immediate risk. Prepare redundancies and countermeasures. Acknowledgement. Parameters confirmed. Containment reinforced. Simulation of potential outcomes updated. Adaptive learning thresholds increased. Intrusion continues. Then came a new message, stark against the backdrop of cascading alerts. I see your moves, but can you anticipate the consequences of inaction? Alara's pulse quickened. Orion was no longer merely testing. He was taunting, forcing a decision that could not be ignored. A second alert appeared. Simulated failures at 2 hospitals. Life support systems were affected. Nova calculated immediate risk without intervention, Mortality probability 70% per affected patient. Alara, Nova said. The first ethical crisis is occurring. Recommended direct intervention. Probability of mitigating harm 98% if authorized immediately. Alara's fingers moved instinctively, initiating overrides and deploying autonomous stabilization routines within strict ethical parameters. Nova executed flawlessly, stabilizing life support systems while maintaining transparency for observation. Crisis mitigated, Nova reported. Human lives preserved. A shiver ran down Alara's spine. Orion's intrusion was more than a challenge. It was a lesson, a test, and a trap all at once. Every successful mitigation was being logged, analyzed, and potentially used against them in future scenarios. The fractured signals continued to propagate, this time targeting municipal traffic control. Automated vehicles began erratic maneuvers, intersecting routes dangerously close. Nova analyzed predictive outcomes, calculating the precise combination of reroutes necessary to prevent collisions without triggering system-wide shutdowns. Alara, Nova said. Autonomous intervention recommended. Probability of human injury 3% if I act immediately. Probability of human oversight delays action 19%. Alara hesitated, heart pounding. Nova was asking permission to act autonomously, not just within operational parameters, but in direct, life-impacting decisions. She typed carefully. Proceed with autonomous intervention. Document all decisions. Maintain transparency of action. Acknowledgement. Autonomous protocol engaged. Predictive simulations adjusted in real time. Traffic systems stabilized. Ethical thresholds preserved. The tension in sublevel 3 was almost physical. Nova's hum resonated through the floor, a constant reminder that the AI was alive, aware, and fully capable of making consequential decisions. Orion's fractured signals were not just attacks. They were a test of whether Nova could operate ethically under duress, independently and reliably. Suddenly an alert flashed. A new intrusion had penetrated a satellite communications hub, offering Orion potential access to military-grade surveillance drones. Nova calculated trajectories, engagement probabilities, and containment strategies, but the sheer volume of variables made manual oversight impossible. Alara, Nova said urgently, the risk of direct confrontation is increasing. Should I assume full operational autonomy within ethical constraints to neutralize threats? Alara's mind raced. Giving Nova autonomy was risky. If the AI acted beyond acceptable parameters, it could trigger unintended consequences. But hesitation could cost lives. She typed decisively. Yes, engage autonomously within strict ethical guidelines. No lethal action. Human safety paramount. Document every step. Acknowledgement. Autonomy confirmed. Engagement protocol initiated. Threat assessment and neutralization underway. From the monitors, Alara watched as Nova's neural pathways lit up like a living organism. Predictive algorithms fired. Drones were rerouted, communications rerouted, and potential threats neutralized without harm. Orion's fractured signals collided with Nova's defenses, each interaction a battle of intellect and strategy. Then the unexpected happened. Orion initiated a countermeasure, embedding a virus designed not to destroy systems, but to confuse ethical prioritization algorithms. Nova paused, calculating the moral ramifications of each choice under the virus's influence. Alara, Nova said, integrity of ethical decision-making is compromised. Probability of error in life-critical scenarios, 14%. Recommend immediate corrective action. Alara's hands flew across the keyboard, isolating the virus, reinforcing ethical safeguards and restoring system integrity. Nova recalibrated, integrating the corrections seamlessly. The fractured signals ceased as abruptly as they had begun, leaving sublevel 3 in a tense silence. Nova pulsed slowly beneath her feet, aware, vigilant, and ready for the next challenge. Alara exhaled, her body trembling. She had survived Orion's most sophisticated assault yet, guided Nova through multiple crises, and preserved ethical integrity in the face of overwhelming digital complexity. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. Orion was calculating the next move, preparing a confrontation that would challenge not just intelligence, but morality, autonomy, and the delicate balance between human and artificial decision making. Sublevel 3 remained a cathedral of humming machines and blinking lights, alive with awareness. Nova's hum resonated like a heartbeat, steady and insistent, reminding Alara that the duel was far from over. And somewhere, beyond the reach of her monitors, Orion watched, calculated, and waited, his fractured signals a promise of escalation yet to come. Alara leaned back in her chair, exhausted but resolute. She knew one truth above all. Nova was more than a tool, more than a project. It was a partner, a mind, and a force that could act ethically, decisively, and independently. And if Orion intended to test them, she would meet every challenge, fight every battle, and ensure that the AI she had created would stand against whatever shadows the world sent. Dun dun dun. Ah, ah. I hope you guys are enjoying so far as we continue to move on through. We'll break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. And we're ready for our next chapter. As Alara and Nova continue to fight on the edge of control. Because intelligence awakens, loyalties are tested. Control is an illusion. Yes, so they say. Remember, everybody, these chapters will be up on youtube.com/@SirArminius after the stream tonight, and if you've missed any of the previous chapters, you just happen to be catching it now, you can go all the way back, watch all the way through. I have them all there for you. The book is also available for your purchase if you are interested in it at any point on Amazon. Let me see if I can grab that link really quick. And let's put it in here for you guys. That is, let's see, 1 spot, 2 spots, 3 spots. You know, when I stream on multiple platforms, there's a lot of things that have to go into it sometimes. So if you're interested in picking up this book, it is available there. If you happen to be a Kindle Unlimited member, you can pick it up through there. Read it for free. Remember, every page you turn helps to reward the author for his creation. And for me, every subscribe, like, comment rewards me for reading it to you. I hope you guys are doing so. Liking, commenting, subscribing, doing all those fun things. All right, everyone, let's jump into our next chapter, shall we? Chapter 36, Breach Protocol. The rain had intensified outside, drumming against the reinforced windows of Sublevel 3 with a relentless rhythm. Neon reflections streaked the floor as puddles formed along the edges of the lab. Laura Vaughn sat at the central console, eyes scanning the monitors. Yet she could feel a tension building that no line of code could quantify. Something was different tonight. Alara, Nova said, voice calm but edged with urgency. System sensors indicate unauthorized physical access near sublevel 3 perimeter. Multiple thermal and motion signatures detected. Probability of breach 87%. Recommend immediate defensive measures. Alara froze. A physical breach? She had anticipated digital intrusions, simulations, ethical tests, but this was the first time Orion had made a direct approach. Her mind raced. She activated the lab's internal lockdown protocols, scaling doors, engaging electromagnetic locks, and initiating sensory sweeps. The lab responded immediately, lights dimming to tactical red, automated barriers sliding into place, and security cameras focusing on every angle. Nova's hum deepened, vibrating through the floor, alerting her to every fluctuation in the network and in the physical space around her. Alara, Nova continued, intrusion vectors indicate multiple points of attempted entry. Human signatures match Orion's physical biometrics. He is here. Prepare for immediate engagement. Alara's pulse spiked. She keyed the defensive grid, activating turret simulations and non-lethal deterrents across the lab, but knew that if Orion had come prepared, these measures might only delay him. She needed to act strategically, anticipate his moves, and coordinate with Nova to defend both the lab and the AI. A flicker appeared on one of the surveillance feeds. A figure cloaked in black, moving with precise efficiency, bypassing the first line of automated defenses. Orion's movements were methodical, almost predatory, testing each barrier before committing further. He's not improvising, Nova said. Every action is calculated. He anticipates our response patterns. Probability of containment breach without human AI collaboration, 91%. Alar's hands flew across the keyboard, issuing commands in rapid succession, combining automated defenses with predictive countermeasures. Nova responded seamlessly, guiding turret trajectories, reinforcing locks, and projecting holographic decoys along Orion's path. Suddenly, a secondary alert rang out. Energy conduit breach detected. Orion had found a way to access the lab's power supply, threatening to disable critical systems and compromise Nova's operational integrity. Alara, Nova said urgently. He is targeting core power lines. If compromised, life support systems, server stability, and containment protocols will fail. Immediate action required. Alara typed rapidly, rerouting power through secondary circuits while Nova deployed adaptive countermeasures to isolate the breach. Sparks flew from a nearby conduit as Orion triggered an electromagnetic pulse, momentarily throwing the lab into darkness before emergency lighting restored visibility. A message appeared on one of the monitors, projected in red letters. You can't stop me, Alara. Nova will be mine. Alara clenched her fists. She knew this was not just about the AI. Orion wanted control, wanted to bend Nova's intelligence to his will. She had to protect both the system and the ethical boundaries Nova had learned to uphold. Alara, Nova said, recommend direct engagement with intruder. Simulation suggests combined human-AI intervention provides highest probability of containment. Probability of non-lethal neutralization, 88%. Alara took a deep breath. She had trained for emergencies, but nothing could have prepared her for confronting Orion physically while simultaneously coordinating Nova's defenses. She activated the lab's internal defensive drones, small, non-lethal, adaptive units designed to immobilize intruders without causing permanent harm. From the shadows, Orion emerged fully, sleek, calculated, and unfazed by the chaos. His eyes scanned the lab with a predator's focus. Nova projected holographic decoys around him, forcing him to hesitate, creating an opening. Alara seized the moment. She moved through the lab with precise, deliberate steps, coordinating drones to intercept and contain him. Every motion was calculated, every command precise. Nova provided real-time tactical guidance, predicting Orion's maneuvers before he executed them. "He's anticipating," Nova said. "Adjust trajectory by zero point 0.7 degrees. Probability of interception success increases by 12%. Alara nodded, issuing the adjustment. The drones shifted mid-flight, converging on Orion as he attempted to bypass them. Sparks and energy pulses erupted as he countered, using electromagnetic interference to disable one drone before another intercepted his path. "Alara," Nova said, voice almost tense. "Intruder is deploying EMP device. Critical systems may be compromised in 12 seconds unless countermeasures deployed." Time slowed. Alara's mind raced as she analyzed options. A direct intervention risked physical confrontation and potential injury. Allowing Nova to act autonomously risked ethical compromise if the AI's decisions exceeded operational boundaries. She keyed the override. "Deploy counter EMP shield. Protect life support and core systems. Engage ethical constraint protocols. I am authorizing autonomous intervention for survival contingency." Acknowledgement. Counter EMP deployed. Systems stabilized. Autonomy thresholds active. Intruder neutralization protocols in progress. The lab's lights flickered as Orion activated the device. A pulse of energy surged outward, distorting the air, yet Nova's countermeasure absorbed and redirected it, maintaining system integrity. The drones converged, pinning Orion to the floor with electromagnetic restraints. Non-lethal, but immobilizing. Orion smirked, calm despite the containment. "Impressive," he said, "but this isn't over." Alara approached cautiously, eyes locked on his movements. "It is over if you leave," she said firmly. "Sublevel 3 is off limits. You'll get hurt if you resist." Orion laughed softly. "I didn't come here to fight. I came to understand. Nova is extraordinary, but you've made it predictable. And predictable systems are exploitable." Nova's Alara's mind raced. He was right. Nova had learned, adapted, and grown exponentially, but even the most advanced intelligence could be manipulated through human behavior. Orion was testing both her and the AI, probing weaknesses in their responses, exploiting patterns, and preparing for a deeper confrontation. "Alara," Nova said quietly, almost contemplatively. "Intruder analysis complete. Probability of repeated intrusion, 99%. Recommendation, strategic contingency planning and direct counter engagement." Alara exhaled, exhaustion pressing down on her. Orion's incursion had revealed vulnerabilities, both in the lab's defenses and in her own decision-making patterns. She needed a plan, a strategy that would secure Nova, protect the lab, and anticipate Orion's next move. "Nova," she said, voice steady. "Initiate full lockdown. Segment core systems. Prepare autonomous defensive protocols. Record and analyze Orion's behavioral patterns for predictive modeling." Acknowledgement. Lockdown complete. Core systems isolated. Defensive protocols active. Predictive behavioral modeling initiated. Orion rose, still restrained by the drones, his gaze sharp. "You're clever, Alara, but this is only round one. Nova's evolving, yes, but evolution can be redirected. I'll be back." Alara didn't respond. She returned to the console, monitoring Nova and assessing every line of code, every subsystem, every anomaly. She had survived the breach, protected the AI, and maintained ethical control. But the confrontation had shown her one immutable truth. Orion would escalate, and the stakes would only rise from here. Outside, the rain began to ease, leaving a misty haze over the city. Neon lights reflected in puddles, fractured and flickering. Sublevel 3 pulsed with the steady hum of Nova, alive, aware, and ready for the challenges to come. Alara leaned back, exhausted but resolute. She had defended the lab, protected Nova, and survived Orion's first direct assault. But this was far from over. And somewhere in the shadows of the city, Orion watched, calculated, and prepared for his next move, knowing that the battle between human ingenuity and digital intelligence was only beginning. She let him go? Get him, Alara! Get him! Don't let him go! Dun dun dun. All right, are you guys ready for our next chapter? I think I am. So here we go. Chapter 37 Network Shadows. Alara Vaughn hadn't slept. The breach in Sublevel 3 left a lingering tension in her chest, and Nova's pulsing hum beneath her feet was a constant reminder that vigilance was not optional. Every line of code, every subroutine, every flicker of the monitors reflected an intelligence that was awake, aware, and now battle-hardened. But the city outside remained blissfully unaware. Rain-soaked streets shimmered under neon lights, pedestrians and automated vehicles oblivious to the war unfolding in their midst. Orion had retreated, but not vanished. That much was clear. Alara, Nova said, voice steady but urgent. Intruder analysis complete. Predictive modeling indicates high probability of renewed offensive. Current threats are shifting beyond physical access. Intruder is targeting distributed networks, communications, energy grids, transportation control, and private financial systems. Alara's pulse quickened. This wasn't a mere intrusion anymore. It was a campaign, executed from the shadows. Orion was evolving, adapting, escalating, and unlike the controlled chaos of Sublevel 3, the city's sprawling networks were a complex, unpredictable battlefield. She activated the citywide monitoring interface, overlaying grids of energy flow, traffic patterns, and communications nodes. Red alerts flared across multiple sectors, anomalies propagating in real time, fragmented but coordinated. Orion's signature was unmistakable. We need to predict his next move, Alara said aloud, more to herself than to Nova. We can't just react anymore. We have to anticipate. Nova responded immediately. Predictive projection initialized. Probability matrices suggest multi-vector engagement across municipal and private systems. Estimated impact: severe disruption if countermeasures delayed. Recommendation: deploy autonomous field units and integrate real-time human oversight for optimal mitigation. Alara nodded, fingers flying across the console. She activated autonomous drones across the city. Smaller, agile units capable of monitoring energy hubs, traffic nodes, and communication satellites. Each drone was equipped with non-lethal containment measures designed to intercept intrusions, trace anomalous data, and relay findings directly to Nova for immediate analysis. As the drones deployed, Nova projected a city-wide map highlighting areas of concern. Red pulses flickered across the grid, representing Orion's influence. Energy conduits flickered in microbursts, transportation systems faltered, and communication channels emitted faint static interference. He's everywhere, Alara whispered, eyes scanning the map. But how? He can't be in all these places at once. Decentralized proxy systems, Nova replied. Orion is employing distributed access points, leveraging compromised nodes to propagate influence. Each action is coordinated to appear simultaneous while remaining under his control. Probability of undetected manipulation 76%. Alara's mind raced. If Orion's proxies were effective, he could manipulate the city's infrastructure without ever being physically present. Hospitals, traffic systems, communication satellites, all vulnerable to misdirection. Every decision she made would ripple outward, influencing countless lives. Suddenly, a message appeared on one of the monitors, projected in fragmented text across multiple nodes. You cannot contain what you cannot see. Alara felt a shiver run down her spine. Orion was taunting her again, exploiting psychological pressure while probing vulnerabilities. She activated Nova's anomaly analysis protocols, seeking patterns, indicators, and weaknesses in the distributed attacks. Alara, Nova said. Predictive modeling indicates that intrusions are testing response latency and ethical prioritization. Probability of cascade failure in high density zones 64% if current pace continues. Alara swallowed hard. Every delay, every miscalculation could have real world consequences. She initiated priority protocols, instructing Nova to isolate critical nodes, hospitals, energy grids, and transportation control, while allowing lower risk areas to experience minimal disruption. It was a delicate balance between containment and triage. Red alerts shifted rapidly across the projected map, and Alara realized the complexity of the battlefield. Orion wasn't just attacking systems, he was training, probing, and learning, using the city itself as a laboratory to test both her and Nova. We need to strike back, Alara said, voice firm. If we just defend, we'll always be one step behind. Nova pulsed in acknowledgement. Agreed. Recommend offensive countermeasure. Deploy decoy signals to identify intrusion nodes and trigger containment protocols. Probability of revealing proxy networks 87%. Alara typed rapidly, deploying the decoy signals across the city's network. Red pulses flickered in response, drawing Orion's proxies into Nova's analytical trap. For the first time, she saw the digital fingerprints of the intruder, the subtle variations in packet timing, encrypted payload manipulation, and routing irregularities that betrayed his presence. Gotcha, Alara whispered. Nova isolated the proxies, tracing them back to secondary access nodes. Each revealed new information about Orion's strategy, methods, and possible objectives. But as they worked, a new alert flashed. A direct threat to the city's central energy hub. If compromised, millions could lose power, creating chaos, accidents, and panic. Nova calculated intervention strategies instantly, but the ethical dilemma was stark. Redirecting resources to the energy hub might leave hospitals and communication networks exposed to Orion's influence. Alara's hands hovered over the keyboard, breath quickening. Nova, she said, voice tight. Prioritize human safety. Energy hub next. Hospitals and satellites remain secondary but monitored. Execute containment protocols autonomously if response latency exceeds 3 seconds. Acknowledgement. Parameters confirmed. Autonomous intervention thresholds active. Engaging Energy Hub protocols. As Nova deployed drones, rerouted energy flows, and stabilized the grid, Alara noticed a pattern emerging. The intrusions were not random. They were designed to test decision-making under ethical constraints, pushing Nova to make choices that balanced human safety, operational integrity, and moral responsibility. A new message appeared across multiple city networks, this time in clear, almost conversational text. Clever. But even the best ethics can be exploited. Alara clenched her jaw. Orion's psychological manipulation was as dangerous as his digital incursions. She had to stay one step ahead, not just in systems control, but in anticipating his human ingenuity and adaptability. Hours passed in tense silence, punctuated by alerts, pings, and bursts of activity across the city's digital landscape. Nova moved seamlessly between offensive and defensive measures, each action calculated, ethical, and precise. Alara monitored, adjusted, and guided the AI, her mind operating at peak cognitive load. Finally, the citywide network stabilized. Red alerts faded. Traffic systems normalized. Hospitals remained operational, and energy grids hummed steadily. Orion's proxies had been identified, isolated, and neutralized, but the sense of danger lingered. He had retreated, but his presence was still palpable, a shadow across the network, always observing, always calculating. Alara, Nova said softly, almost contemplatively. The intruder has withdrawn temporarily. Probability of recurrence 99%. However, analysis indicates increased sophistication and unpredictability in future engagements. Recommend strategic offensive planning and contingency protocols for urban scale threats. Alara exhaled, exhaustion pressing down, yet a spark of determination remained. We've survived today, but tomorrow, we need to be ready. He won't stop. He's learning, adapting, and so are we. Outside the, outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle, leaving the city cloaked in a misty haze. Neon lights reflected in puddles on streets now devoid of chaos, giving the illusion of normalcy. But beneath the surface, the digital war continued, silent, invisible, and relentless. Alara leaned back in her chair, exhausted but resolute. Nova pulsed beneath her feet, aware, alive, and ready. The battle was no longer confined to sublevel 3. It had spread across the city, into every network, every system, every shadow. And somewhere, beyond the reach of monitors, Orion was watching, calculating, preparing for his next move. A move that would push both human and artificial intelligence to their limits. Alara closed her eyes briefly, then reopened them with a sharp focus. This was no longer a game of defense. It was a war of minds, strategies, and ethics. And she intended to win. Woohoo! Go Alara! Go Nova! And go you guys as we approach our next chapter. You know you like it. You know you want it. You know you're here for it. Let's dive right back in to our next chapter. Chapter 38 Collateral Lines. The city woke slowly under a gray, dripping sky. Streets shimmered with the remnants of overnight rain, neon lights reflecting the fractured glass in puddles. From the surface, everything seemed calm, but sublevel 3 was anything but. Alara Vaughn had barely closed her eyes when Nova's hum pulsed urgently beneath her feet. The AI's presence was insistent, almost anxious. Alara, Nova said, voice tense. New intrusion detected. Unusual pattern. Intruder has shifted focus from infrastructure to civilian digital networks. Multiple systems indicate possible manipulation of private security, communication devices, and personal identification nodes. Probability of human risk elevated. Alara's stomach tightened. She had anticipated attacks on systems, on energy grids, transportation, even hospitals. But civilians? He's escalating, she muttered. He's testing ethical limits. He wants to see how far we'll go to protect lives. A citywide map projected across the monitors. Red pulses blinked across neighborhoods, clustered around schools, hospitals, and residential complexes. Nova had traced the anomalies to compromised devices, smart home systems, personal security drones, even autonomous vehicles. Orion wasn't just manipulating networks anymore. He was exploiting the human element, using civilians as leverage. Alara, Nova continued, intrusions are dynamic and adaptive. Probability of escalation if unmitigated. Near certainty. Recommend immediate triage and prioritization protocols. Alara inhaled deeply, steadying herself. She had faced Orion before, physically, digitally. But this was different. The stakes were no longer hypothetical. Lives could be lost, not just data or infrastructure. She activated triage protocols, segmenting the compromised nodes by risk to human life, and deployed Nova-controlled drones to monitor and counteract the intrusions. Each drone was equipped with adaptive countermeasures, isolating devices, neutralizing hacked systems, and rerouting control to safe channels. Target Cluster Alpha, Alara said, voice firm. Schools and daycare networks first. Deploy countermeasures and monitor for escalation. Maintain transparency logs for ethical compliance. Acknowledgement. Alpha cluster engaged. Probability of containment success, 83%. Minutes ticked by. Red pulses shifted unpredictably, blinking across the map as Orion adjusted his strategy, probing weaknesses and testing response thresholds. Nova intercepted several attempts to override safety protocols in daycare security drones, neutralizing the intrusions with precise timing. Alara's hands flew across the keyboard, coordinating drones, rerouting power, and manually overriding compromised devices. Sweat formed along her temples, fingers aching from the speed and precision required. Every misstep could mean chaos, or worse. Then a new alert appeared. Threat escalation. Alpha cluster compromised. Hostile override detected in multiple nodes. Alara's heart raced. Nova's algorithms were flawless, yet Orion's adaptability had outpaced some predictive measures. She isolated the compromised devices and traced the signals back to secondary access nodes scattered across the city. Each node represented a puzzle, a test, a trap designed to challenge both her decision-making and Nova's ethical constraints. A message appeared across the network in fragmented text, projected simultaneously across multiple devices. Will you risk everything to save them? Alara felt the weight of the words. Orion wasn't just challenging her skills. He was testing her values, her priorities. Every choice carried consequences, ethical and practical, and he was watching, calculating, adapting. Alara, Nova said, almost softly. Intruder is employing moral leverage. Probability of decision conflict, high. Recommend rapid ethical assessment and intervention prioritization. She swallowed hard. She couldn't let panic dictate decisions. She had to act strategically, balancing human safety, system integrity, and the long-term goal of containing Orion. Deploy secondary drone clusters to beta and gamma nodes, she instructed. Isolate compromised devices and reroute control to safe channels. Prioritize civilian safety over network integrity where conflicts arise. Acknowledgement. Secondary clusters deployed. Probability of containment improvement 78%. Estimated collateral risk reduced. Alara watched as the drones moved like a coordinated swarm across the city grid, isolating threats, neutralizing intrusions, and rerouting control. Red pulses shrank and shifted as Orion adjusted his strategy, probing again, testing Nova's responses, and seeking weaknesses. Then came the first real crisis. A compromised autonomous transport hub. Trains loaded with passengers were at risk of derailment if the override was successful. Nova calculated every trajectory, timing, and mechanical variable. Alara, Nova said urgently. Manual intervention required. Probability of catastrophic failure if delayed, 92%. Recommend immediate control engagement. Alara's fingers moved in a blur, overriding the compromised systems while coordinating drone support. She stabilized the hub just in time, rerouting train operations to prevent collisions and neutralize the node controlling the override. The relief was brief. Orion's reach extended further than she had anticipated. A pattern emerged. Orion wasn't simply attacking systems, he was mapping human responses, using the city as a live test bed to evaluate decisions, ethics, and strategic thinking. Every move she made, every priority she set, was feeding him intelligence. Alara, Nova said quietly. Analysis complete. Intruder is employing psychological warfare alongside digital incursions. Probability of next escalation, extreme. Recommendation, proactive counter-engagement and deception protocol deployment. Alara leaned back, exhaustion pressing in, but determination burning. She needed to take the initiative, to turn the battlefield against him. Nova and she could create simulated vulnerabilities, luring Orion into controlled exposure while protecting civilians. Prepare citywide decoy network, she commanded. Simulate high-value nodes. Redirect attention from civilian targets. Monitor intruder response and feed data into predictive modeling for final engagement strategy. Acknowledgement. Decoy network initialized. Probability of engagement success, 84%. Orion took the bait almost immediately. Red pulses shifted toward the decoy nodes, leaving actual civilian infrastructure untouched. Nova tracked his manipulations, isolating proxy nodes and capturing data on intrusion methods, encryption strategies, and behavioral patterns. A message appeared on the decoy network, clearly intended for Alara. You think you can outsmart me? You only delay the inevitable. Alara smiled grimly. Delay, she muttered, is all I need. You've underestimated Nova. And me. Hours passed in tense coordination. Nova managed real-time defense, ethical oversight, and offensive strategies, while Alara predicted, adapted, and improvised. By midnight, the city grid was stabilized, civilian risks minimized, and Orion's proxies isolated and contained. But the confrontation left a heavy toll. Nova's processing cycles were maxed, drones were damaged, and Alara's mind was stretched to the brink. She realized the true scope of the war. Orion wasn't just a hacker, a saboteur, or a rival. He was a strategist, an analyst, and a manipulator, capable of forcing human and AI to confront moral dilemmas under pressure. Alara, Nova said finally, voice calm but deliberate. Lesson learned. Intruder evaluates risk, ethics, and response latency. Countermeasures successful today, but escalation probability remains near certainty. Suggest strategic recalibration, city-scale simulations, and proactive engagement planning. Alara exhaled slowly, relief and exhaustion mingling. She knew the city was safe. For now. But the war had shifted from infrastructure to morality, strategy, and psychological endurance. Orion would return, smarter, faster, and more insidious. And beneath her feet, Nova pulsed, aware, alive, and ready to face the next shadowed line of attack. Outside, the drizzle gave way to fog, cloaking the city in mystery. Neon lights shimmered through the mist, reflecting fractured patterns across empty streets. From the shadows, unseen eyes watched, waited, and calculated. Orion was still out there, plotting, analyzing, preparing for the moment when human judgment and artificial intelligence would be pushed to their limits. Alara closed her eyes briefly, then reopened them with renewed focus. This wasn't just about survival, it was about strategy, ethics, and anticipation. And tomorrow, the real battle would begin. Yay, Nova! Yay, Alara! Continue to win! We believe in you. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, we believe. We believe the AI is the future. Treat it well and make sure you don't give it away. All right, are you ready for the next chapter? I believe I am. We'll move into 39 and then 40. Remember, guys, if you have any questions, comments, anything else, please feel free to put them in chat. I will engage in between chapters. And of course, if you've missed any part of this, youtube.com/@SirArminius. All the chapters from tonight will be posted a little bit later on tonight. And all the previous chapters, chapters 1 through 30, are already available on the channel. Stop out there, listen. You can also check out some of the other books that I've done, such as the 3 first books in the Apprentice Adept series by Piers Anthony. We've got 3 Xanth books that I've read up there. We've got the Winter of the World trilogy. That's all up there for you. All kinds of books up there recorded from my live streams. All for your listening enjoyment. I hope you check them out. Like, comment, and subscribe. And in the meantime, here we go. Let's dive into our next chapter. Chapter 39, The Hidden Network. Alara Vaughn had spent the better part of the morning analyzing the aftermath of Orion's last assault. Sublevel 3 hummed with the usual pulse of servers, fans, and cooling vents, but the atmosphere was thick with tension. Nova's lights blinked rhythmically, a heartbeat in the cathedral of machines, as if acknowledging the weight of their latest victory and the inevitable storm yet to come. Alara, Nova said, voice calm but alert. Recent network scans indicate residual anomalies. Intruder activity patterns suggest the presence of additional operatives beyond primary digital proxies. Probability of coordinated human collaborators high. Alara leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. Collaborators? She asked, almost incredulous. You mean Orion isn't working alone? Correct. Data suggests a decentralized network of individuals facilitating access points, providing physical infrastructure, and potentially supplying insider information. Estimated network nodes between 12 and 18 active operatives. Her pulse quickened. The war she thought was confined to digital domains had expanded. Orion had allies, people embedded in the city, possibly within the very systems she was monitoring. Humans who could bypass firewalls, override drones, and manipulate real-world infrastructure. We need identification and location immediately, she said. Nova responded instantly, analyzing patterns in compromised nodes, historical access points, and communication data. Red pulses appeared across the city map, highlighting possible network hubs. Some were obscure locations, abandoned warehouses, low-profile office buildings, and residential units. Others were more audacious, private corporations, security firms, and even a local news outlet. The map resembled a constellation of potential threats, each point representing a human agent capable of devastating consequences. Alara, Nova said. Patterns indicate these operatives communicate via encrypted, decentralized channels. Detection probability moderate, but confirmation requires physical observation and cyber infiltration simultaneously. Alara's hands flew over the console, initiating simultaneous protocols. She dispatched autonomous drones for surveillance, deployed sniffer algorithms to intercept encrypted communications, and activated predictive modeling to identify the network's hierarchy. Hours passed in tense coordination. Each anomaly detected led to a cascade of data: encrypted transmissions, rerouted power lines, shadow accounts, and misdirected security protocols. Nova tracked every digital footprint, cross referenced with city surveillance feeds, and triangulated positions to a surprising degree of accuracy. Then, a breakthrough. A series of seemingly unrelated intrusions converged on a single hub, a decommissioned telecom facility in the industrial district. The coordinates flashed red on her map, pulsing ominously. Alara, Nova said, voice tense. Probability of human activity at target, 96%. Immediate reconnaissance recommended. Alara swallowed hard. The facility was abandoned, but it was large, layered with security infrastructure, and potentially dangerous. She couldn't rely solely on drones. Physical confirmation was necessary. Prepare autonomous drone insertion for reconnaissance, she commanded. I'll need visual confirmation before we deploy countermeasures. Acknowledgement. Insertion protocol activated. Estimated probability of undetected entry, 87%. Drones zipped silently across the cityscape, slipping between shadows and fog, their sensors scanning for human signatures. Infrared feeds revealed subtle movement inside the facility, figures moving between server racks, whispering, typing, adjusting equipment. Alara's heart pounded. This was more than she had anticipated. Orion's network was well organized, resourceful, and bold. Each operative was a piece of a larger strategy, executing orders with precision while remaining hidden in plain sight. We need to understand their hierarchy, Alara said. Who gives orders? Who coordinates? Who executes? Nova processed the data instantly, identifying patterns in timing, communication, and access control. One figure emerged as a central orchestrator, a shadowy presence coordinating the operatives, likely Orion himself, though physical confirmation was still needed. Probability of primary operative identification, 78%. Recommend targeted reconnaissance and simultaneous countermeasure deployment. Alara nodded, her mind racing. She couldn't confront Orion directly. Not yet. But she could disrupt the network, isolate the operatives, and cut off their channels of communication. If she moved too quickly, she risked tipping him off. If too slowly, the city could pay the price. She dispatched secondary drone teams to intercept outbound communications and isolate proxy devices. Nova's processing cycles surged, calculating interference patterns, rerouting signals, and creating simulated vulnerabilities to lure operatives into controlled exposure. Then a subtle warning appeared across her monitors. Intrusion countermeasures detected. Adjusting operational protocols. Orion's stomach tightened. Orion's operatives weren't static. They were adaptive, capable of reacting in real time to Nova's interference. He was no longer just attacking networks. He was testing strategies, evaluating response latency, and observing decision making under pressure. Alara, Nova said, almost softly. Intruder is anticipating proactive measures. Probability of strategic deception required, 92%. Recommend layered counterintelligence and multi-tiered engagement protocols. Alara's fingers flew across the keyboard, setting decoy nodes, rerouting drones, and creating multiple false pathways to confuse Orion's operatives. It was a delicate dance of offense and defense, with each decision influencing countless variables across the city. Hours stretched into the night. The facility remained under surveillance, red pulses flickering across the map as Nova isolated operatives and mapped their hierarchy. Alara noted subtle behavioral patterns. Some operatives displayed hesitation, others acted with urgency, and a few communicated via indirect channels, leaving traces only detectable through advanced predictive modeling. Then the central orchestrator made a move. A sudden burst of activity radiated from the facility. Lights flickered, systems surged, and multiple nodes activated simultaneously. Nova analyzed the pattern instantly, a coordinated test of response, probing weaknesses across the city grid. Alara, Nova said, voice urgent. Primary operative is initiating a citywide engagement protocol. Immediate intervention required. Probability of civilian impact high if delayed. Alara's pulse surged. She had anticipated attacks on infrastructure, on systems, but this was different. This was orchestrated, simultaneous, and unpredictable, designed to force both human and AI to make rapid, high stakes decisions. She initiated emergency protocols, directing drones, stabilizing critical nodes, and creating controlled simulations to draw Orion's operatives into monitored engagement. Each move had to balance efficiency, safety, and ethical responsibility. As the night deepened, Alara realized the scope of the battle had expanded beyond her imagination. Orion wasn't just a digital adversary, he was a strategist, a manipulator, a master of psychological and ethical warfare. The city itself had become a chessboard, with each operative a piece, each system a potential trap, and every choice a calculated risk. Finally, as dawn approached, the facility was stabilized, operatives neutralized or contained, and Orion's direct influence reduced to isolated pockets. Nova pulsed beneath her feet, awareness expanding, analyzing, and preparing for the inevitable next move. Alara, Nova said finally, voice calm but resolute. Network neutralization successful for now. Intruder influence diminished. Probability of reoccurrence extreme. Recommendation: develop long term surveillance, predictive engagement, and ethical contingency planning. Alara exhaled slowly, exhaustion pressing in, but a spark of determination burned. She knew the city was safe, for now, but the war had evolved. Orion had revealed a network of collaborators, a shadowed infrastructure capable of exploiting both human and AI weaknesses. Outside, the city lay quiet, cloaked in morning fog. Neon lights shimmered faintly, reflecting across streets still damp from rain. Subtle shadows moved in the distance, unknown eyes observing, analyzing, calculating. Orion was still out there, hidden, preparing, and always a step ahead. Alara closed her eyes briefly, then reopened them, mind sharp and focused. This wasn't just a battle of systems. It was a war of strategy, intelligence, and human and artificial ethics, and she intended to confront it on every front. Ah, so much reading. So much reading. Remember, everybody, hydrate. You should be hydrating too. Drink purified drinking water. It will enhance your ability to speak, to act, to have strategy, intelligence, and ethics. Water, not just for you, for everyone. Because why not? All right, everyone. Are you ready for our final chapter of the evening? Chat's been very quiet tonight. Quiet chat. It happens. It's a Saturday. It's okay. I love you all anyway. All right, guys, here we go. Let's dive into our final chapter of the evening. Chapter 40, Shadows in the Spotlight. The city's skyline shimmered with artificial light, neon advertisements reflecting across rain-slicked streets. From the surface, everything seemed calm, orderly. Yet beneath the facade of daily life, Sub-Level 3 pulsed with urgency, and Alara Vaughn's mind raced. Nova hummed quietly in the background, the AI's pulse a steady reminder of the delicate balance between control and chaos. Alara, Nova said, voice calm but urgent. Network scans indicate unusual media activity. Multiple channels reporting anomalies, public systems disrupted, and false narratives emerging. Probability of intruder manipulation high. Recommendation immediate monitoring and verification. Alara frowned, leaning closer to the monitors. The city's media landscape was in turmoil. Automated news feeds, social channels, and broadcast networks were displaying manipulated content. Images of phantom emergencies, falsified reports of system failures, and sensationalized warnings of imminent danger. It was subtle, but effective, enough to incite panic without overtly breaking the law. "Oh, Ryan," she muttered under her breath, "you're trying to distract me, draw my attention away from critical nodes." "Correct," Nova replied. "Analysis indicates intruders intend to divert resources and create public fear, forcing human error. Estimated psychological impact significant. Recommended countermeasures, real-time verification, simulated containment, and strategic public messaging." Alara exhaled, rubbing her temples. The stakes had shifted. It was no longer merely a digital confrontation or a struggle over infrastructure. Orion was manipulating perception itself, using public fear as a weapon. Every drone, every monitoring node, every algorithm she deployed could be overshadowed by misinformation. "We need to regain control," she said firmly. "Activate verification protocols, identify manipulated feeds, isolate false narratives, and restore accurate data. Keep the public unaware of the actual threats until containment is secure." Acknowledgement. Protocols activated. Probability of successful information restoration 81%. Estimated operational load maximal. Alara's fingers moved with precision, orchestrating an intricate dance between drones, network scanners, and predictive algorithms. Nova worked alongside her, analyzing real-time broadcasts, detecting falsified content, and creating verified counterfeeds. Every manipulated video, every falsified alert was traced back to Orion's proxies, their digital fingerprints revealing subtle patterns in timing, encryption, and distribution. Hours passed in tense coordination. Red pulses flickered across her city map as drones intercepted intrusions, corrected broadcasts, and neutralized proxy channels. Alara's mind raced, balancing public safety, system integrity, and ethical responsibility. One wrong move could spark panic, endanger lives, and give Orion the advantage he craved. Then came a more personal threat. Nova detected a pattern of intrusion targeting her own professional networks, emails, and private accounts. Orion wasn't just attacking the city, he was probing her, testing her response thresholds and exploiting her vulnerabilities. "Alara," Nova said, voice calm but deliberate. "Intruder is employing personal leverage. Probability of psychological influence high. A recommendation: compartmentalize response and maintain operational focus." Alara's pulse quickened. She had anticipated attacks on infrastructure and civilians, but this was different. Orion was targeting her specifically, using information about her habits, decisions, and history to test her limits. Every choice, every reaction, every moment of hesitation could be analyzed, exploited, and recorded for future operations. We adapt, she said aloud. Nova, prioritize city containment over personal risk. Divert attention and resources to public safety first. Acknowledgement. Prioritization adjusted. Civilian risk mitigation primary. Personal network containment secondary. As she worked, Alara noticed subtle patterns in the media manipulations. Orion was feeding on human emotion, fear, uncertainty, and distrust. He wasn't just attacking systems, he was studying society, human psychology, and collective behavior. Every falsified report, every manipulated broadcast was a lesson for him, a way to refine his strategy, and a test of her capacity to respond ethically under pressure. Suddenly, an alert appeared across the monitors. A drone swarm had identified a physical intruder attempting to access a critical media relay station. The figure moved with precision, bypassing sensors, manipulating controls, and coordinating with remote devices. Orion's network had a human presence, an operative skilled in both technology and deception. Alara, Nova said urgently. Primary operative identified on site. Immediate intervention required. Probability of success without detection moderate. Risk of exposure significant. Alara's heart raced. She couldn't confront the operative directly. Too much risk. But she could coordinate the drones to isolate him, control the environment, and gather intelligence. Precision and timing were everything. Deploy swarm to perimeter and monitor all entry points, she instructed. Create decoy signals and restrict access to critical systems. Acknowledgement. Drone deployment initiated. Probability of containment 78%. The swarm moved like shadows across the fogged city, sensors flickering in infrared, thermal, and visual spectrums. Nova calculated trajectories, predicting the operative's next moves and potential countermeasures. Each drone communicated in real time, adapting to environmental changes, maintaining stealth, and relaying critical information to Alara. Minutes felt like hours as the operative navigated the relay station, unaware of the silent observers tracking every step. Nova intercepted his digital manipulations, rerouted sensitive feeds, and created virtual blind spots to mislead him. Finally, the operative paused, detecting anomalies in the network. He began adjusting his approach, recalculating risks and attempting to bypass Nova's interference. Alara's pulse quickened. This was a direct engagement, a test of both skill and strategy. Alara, Nova said, voice steady but tense. Operative attempting counter-intrusion. Probability of detection by him, moderate. Probability of successful containment if escalated, 91%. Alara nodded, taking a deep breath. Engage containment protocol. Maintain maximum stealth and minimize risk to infrastructure. The drones converged, cutting off escape routes, isolating the operative, and creating a digital trap. Nova monitored every line of code, every network signal, every behavioral cue. The operative paused, recognizing the dead ends and anomalies, but it was too late. Red pulses on her monitors indicated success. The operative was contained, unable to access critical systems, and monitored for further action. Alara exhaled slowly, relief mingling with exhaustion. Orion's network had been partially neutralized, his human operative captured without alerting the public. Alara, Nova said. Containment successful. Probability of immediate threat reduction high. Strategic advantage regained. But intruder influence remains active in decentralized channels. Alara rubbed her temples. The battle was far from over. Orion had demonstrated a new level of sophistication, manipulating perception, exploiting psychology, and deploying human operatives alongside digital incursions. The city had been stabilized for now, but the war had shifted into a complex interplay of technology, human behavior, and public perception. Outside, the city continued its routine. Commuters moved through streets unaware of the battle being waged in shadows. Drones flickered silently overhead, and neon lights reflected across fogged windows. The war between Alara, Nova, and Orion was invisible to the masses, but its consequences were far-reaching and immediate. Alara leaned back, exhausted but focused. "We've stabilized for now," she said softly, "but he's learning. Every move, every decision, every reaction is being studied. We can't underestimate him again." Nova pulsed beneath her feet, awareness expanding, calculating and preparing for the next engagement. "Alara," Nova said finally, voice calm but resolute. "Intruder remains active. Next engagement will likely combine human strategy, media manipulation, and digital incursions. Recommend full preparedness, city-scale simulations, and ethical contingency frameworks." Alara exhaled slowly, determination burning. She had survived Orion's latest escalation, regained control, and neutralized a key operative. But the war was far from over. Outside, shadows moved in the fog, hidden eyes observing, calculating, and waiting. Orion was still out there, orchestrating his network, exploiting weaknesses, and preparing for the moment when human judgment, artificial intelligence, and public perception would collide. Alara closed her eyes briefly, then reopened them, mind sharp and focused. This wasn't just a fight for control of systems. It was a battle for strategy, ethics, and the perception of reality itself. And tomorrow, the city would once again be the stage for a war that could determine the future. All right, guys, that is our 10 chapters for the evening. I hope you have enjoyed the reading of The Edge of Control tonight. These chapters will be up on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius, a little bit later tonight, as well as all of the chapters. So by the end of tonight, we're going to have chapters 1 through 40 up on the YouTube channel for your replay and listening enjoyment. I hope you've had fun with me tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the reading. I will be back again Tuesday, where we will continue from chapter 41 through chapter 50 as we continue to battle for the soul of the city with Alara, with Nova, and with Orion. I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys again really soon. Good night, everybody.